In May 2014, in the quiet suburb of Waukesha, Wisconsin, three 12-year-old girls gathered to celebrate a birthday. Morgan Geyser, Anissa Ware, and Peyton Bella Leutner were typical middle schoolers, sharing snacks and secrets. But beneath the surface of this ordinary sleepover, a dark, obsessive plan was being finalized by two of the girls, fueled by an internet urban legend. Morgan and Anissa had become obsessed with Slender Man, a fictional, supernatural character originating from the Something Awful forums, spent hours on the creepypasta wiki, reading stories of the tall, faceless man in a black suit. To them, he wasn't a myth. He was a terrifyingly real deity who demanded a blood sacrifice in exchange for protection and a place in his mansion. The two girls believed that by killing their best friend, they would become Slender Man's proxies. They feared that if they failed to act, the monster would kill their families. This shared delusion, known as folie à deux, blurred the lines between internet fiction and physical reality, turning a playground story into a motive for a cold-blooded, pre-planned execution. On the morning of May 31st, the three girls went to David's Park. They played hide-and-seek, a classic childhood game that the two conspirators used as a cover to lure Bella into a secluded, wooded area. The sun was shining and families were nearby, but inside the dense brush of the tree line, the birthday celebration was about to transform into a scene of unimaginable horror. Under the direction of Anissa, Morgan pulled a kitchen knife from her pocket. She fell upon Bella, stabbing her 19 times in the arms, legs, and torso. One wound narrowly missed her heart by a fraction of a millimeter. Bella pleaded for her life, asking why they were doing this. The attackers told her to lay still and stay quiet, promising they would go get her help. After the attack, Morgan and Anissa wiped some of the blood off and walked away, leaving Bella bleeding in the dirt. They began a trek toward the Nicollet National Forest, hundreds of miles away, where they believed Slender Man's mansion was located. They were convinced that their task was complete, and that their new life as servants of the faceless entity had finally begun. Despite her horrific injuries, Bella Leutner refused to die. With sheer willpower, she dragged herself out of the woods and toward a nearby bike path. A passing cyclist, Greg Steinberg, discovered her lying on the pavement, covered in blood and gasping for air. He called 911, and emergency responders rushed her to the hospital, where surgeons fought to save her life. Hours later, police spotted Morgan and Anissa walking along a highway near Interstate 94. When questioned, they didn't run or deny their actions. They spoke calmly about Slender Man and the necessity of the sacrifice. In their backpacks, police found the blood-stained knife. The girls seemed more concerned about the supernatural consequences of their failure than the legal ones. The recorded interrogations sent shockwaves through the nation. The girls spoke with a chilling, detached innocence about their plan. Morgan described the stabbing as weirdly calm, while Anissa explained the complex mythology of the Slender Man. It was a terrifying glimpse into how a digital subculture could colonize and distort the developing minds of young children. The case raised a profound legal question. Should 12-year-old children be tried as adults for attempted first-degree intentional homicide? The prosecution argued the crime was too calculated for juvenile court, while the defense pointed to their extreme youth and mental instability. The Slender Man case became a landmark debate on the intersection of law, age, and mental health. Psychiatric evaluations revealed that Morgan Geyser suffered from early-onset schizophrenia, a condition her father also had. She experienced hallucinations of Slender Man and other fictional characters. Anissa Ware was diagnosed with a shared delusional disorder. Their mental states became the central focus of the defense, arguing that they were literally unable to perceive reality. While the legal gears turned, Bella Leutner underwent an agonizing physical and emotional recovery. She survived the 19 stab wounds, but the betrayal by her two closest friends left scars that no surgery could fix. Her resilience became a source of inspiration, but her story was often overshadowed by the public's morbid fascination with the attackers and their monster. Despite their age, a judge ruled that the girls would be tried in adult court. This decision meant they faced decades in prison if convicted. The defense worked toward a plea deal that would prioritize mental health treatment over traditional incarceration, recognizing that a standard prison environment would likely worsen their severe psychological conditions. In 2017, both girls reached plea agreements. They pleaded guilty, but not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. This acknowledged their role in the stabbing, but redirected their sentencing towards state psychiatric hospitals rather than prisons. It was a compromise that sought to provide justice for Bella while addressing the clear insanity that drove the crime. Anissa Weyer was sentenced to 25 years in a state psychiatric facility. The judge emphasized that the protection of the community was paramount, given the violent nature of the delusion. Anissa expressed remorse during the hearing, admitting that she had held on to a dream that turned out to be a nightmare, and that she was sorry for the pain she had caused Bella. Morgan Geyser, deemed the primary assailant and more severely mentally ill, was sentenced to 40 years in a psychiatric hospital. Her sentence was the maximum possible, reflecting the severity of her schizophrenia. The court heard how she still struggled with voices and visions, proving that her journey towards sanity would be a long and difficult road within the state system. The case inspired the HBO documentary Beware the Slender Man, which explored the impact of the internet on child development. It examined how creepypasta stories and viral myths could trigger latent mental illness or create a digital echo chamber for vulnerable minds. The film served as a warning to parents about the dark corners of the modern, unmonitored web. In 2021, after serving 7 years, Anissa Weyer was granted conditional release from Winnebago Mental Health Institute. Now a young woman, she is required to live in a supervised setting, wear a GPS monitor, and continue intensive psychiatric treatment. Her release sparked fresh debate about the rehabilitation of violent juvenile offenders and the permanence of their cure. The Slender Man Stabbing essentially ended the golden age of creepypasta. The character, once a fun internet boogeyman, became synonymous with real-world violence. The website and the community were forced to reckon with the unintended consequences of their stories, and Slender Man was largely retired from the mainstream, now a ghost of a very real tragedy. Bella Lutner eventually spoke out, sharing her story of survival and moving forward. She graduated high school and began a new life, refusing to be defined by the woods or the knife. The story of the Slender Man Stabbing remains a chilling reminder of how the virtual world can bleed into the physical one, and how a child's imagination can be weaponized into a nightmare.